Are you trying to write up your PhD literature review, but you're just going paper by paper and it's starting to feel a bit like a list? You might have taken a look at somebody else's published PhD thesis and you've gone to the literature review section and you've thought, well, how do I go from my literature list to something like this, a really coherent literature review that gives the sense this person has a masterful command of the literature? How do I get there? And just a quick side note here about looking at other people's published PhD theses. Now, I'm not saying that's something you shouldn't do, because I do think it's valuable. It can be helpful to look at other people's work and look at how the work ends up. But that's what you need to remember, okay? That is the end point. What you don't see when you look at that kind of thing is the 23 previous versions that they had that were messy and disorganized and scrappy, and they wouldn't want anybody to see, okay? This came up in Momentum, my PhD community, a while ago, about the pros and cons of looking at other people's published work. And I think the most important thing to say is that published version that you see isn't the first version they wrote, okay? It took a long time to get there. Their literature review once looked a lot like yours does now. No one gets their literature review to look all lovely and neat and polished on the first go. It's not a thing. Anyway, back to the video. This is part 3 of a 4-part series on how to write a thematic literature review for your PhD study. In the first 2, and I'll link to the playlist on the screen right now, we made a couple of really important shifts about the literature review, about how we think about the literature review. Firstly, we stopped treating it as a reading exercise, as an exercise in PDF collecting. And secondly, we stopped looking at it as a collection of disconnected topics. At the end of that second video, you probably started to think about some potential themes for your literature review, some potential headings, ways of organising it. That is fantastic, but unfortunately, it's where a lot of researchers hit the next hurdle. They've got some themes, but now they're wondering, what on earth do I write? Or perhaps more accurately, how do I stop sounding as though I'm just writing a list of paper summaries? If that's you, don't worry. Let's get into it. The listy, paper by paper style of writing is fine to begin with, okay? Everybody starts like that. But it can't stay that way, so how do we go beyond it? Let's go back to our example. We're exploring the experiences of women in the UK who leave professional careers in their 40s to start online education businesses. Now, in the last video, we decided that one possible organising lens might be identity reconstruction, and within that, we identified 3 possible themes: leaving a professional identity behind, becoming an entrepreneur, and negotiating confidence and legitimacy. Now, so far, so good. Now, let's imagine I start writing, and I might write something like this. Smith argues that leaving employment involves identity loss. Jones found that women often struggle with confidence when starting a business. Brown suggests that entrepreneurship involves constructing a new professional identity. Now, technically, there's nothing wrong with those sentences, but they're not really talking to one another. They're simply standing politely in a queue, one after another. And that is summary. The literature review isn't asking you to introduce every paper individually. It's asking you to explain what the literature collectively is helping us understand. So instead, I might write something like this. Across the literature, leaving a professional career is consistently described as more than an employment transition. It represents an identity transition in which women renegotiate ideas about competence, expertise, and professional legitimacy. While Smith focuses on the sense of identity loss that accompanies career change, Brown suggests that entrepreneurship offers an opportunity to reconstruct that identity in new ways. Jones adds another layer by showing how confidence develops throughout this transition rather than existing at the outset. Can you see the difference here? I'm no longer introducing papers, I'm introducing ideas, and the papers simply help me explain those ideas. That is synthesis. Here's another way of thinking about it. Imagine you've invited all of these researchers into the same room. What would they agree on? What would they disagree on? Whose work builds on somebody else's? Who offers a different perspective? Those are the conversations that your literature review is trying to capture. Because papers don't become a literature review. Conversations become a literature review. Each theme has to now become a conversation. Actually, I would love to know whether this has been a little bit of an aha moment for you. If it has, just write conversation in the comments. It'll be interesting to see how many of you are looking differently at your literature review just through that one idea, that idea of a theme becoming a conversation. And here's something I think really helps with this. Instead of asking, what does this paper say? Try asking this instead. What job is this paper doing? Different papers have different functions, and different pieces of literature are not going to contribute equally to your literature review. They all bring different things to the party. Some introduce an idea, others challenge it, others extend it. So, is it introducing an important concept? Is it providing evidence? Is it challenging an existing idea? Is it extending somebody else's work? Or is it offering a completely different perspective? When you can see the role and the purpose that the different papers are playing in your literature review, that is when your writing becomes a lot more analytical. I know this can feel quite uncomfortable because summarising feels a lot safer, doesn't it? After all, summarising is just reporting what somebody else has said. You're not taking much of a risk with that. And what you're doing here is synthesising, and synthesising asks a lot more of you. It asks you to make decisions and to decide what matters. That's why so many PhD researchers find it difficult, because it can be quite exposing. Hello, imposter syndrome. Here's a little exercise I'd like you to try. Choose one of your themes and identify 5 papers that relate to it. Ask yourself, what conversation is happening across these 5 papers? Where do they agree? Where do they disagree? What bigger story are they telling together? Write down your answers to those questions and then start writing your first paragraph about those papers. And I think you'll be surprised at how much easier it is to move beyond summary when you've got those questions as your foundation. Seriously, don't just nod along to this. Actually go and do this exercise because it makes such a difference. It really does. In the final video of this series, we're going to tackle one last question. You've got an organising lens now, you've started to identify some themes, you're beginning to synthesise, but you've still got a mountain of papers, of PDFs, of chapters, books. How do you actually decide which of those belong in your literature review? I'll see you in there.